Hello everybody, my name is Tara Brabazon and welcome to this very special flipped vlog on Confirmation of Candidature. And I have the great pleasure of been speaking with my wonderful friend Sunny Rue Chivaura. Now Sunny, hello Sunny. And Sunny is my PhD student, but she's a very special PhD student for many reasons. One of them is that she's right now near the end of her candidature. She's within about, I think, 2 months maximum of submitting her thesis. But she came to Flinders from another university. When Steve Redhead and I came to Flinders, she came with us, which means something rather special for today's conversation. She's the only Flinders PhD student who has done a confirmation of candidature. Because she did it at another university. So I thought, let's use this opportunity and talk to Sunny so she can help you, our guys and gals who for the first time are going to experience a confirmation of candidature at Flinders. Let's use her expertise. Hi Sunny.
Hello, Professor.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
So thank you for taking the time to talk through this, and this is really going to help a lot of people because I've been getting a lot of emails. I know a lot of supervisors have been getting a lot of emails quite panicked about what is a confirmation of candidature, how is it different from a proposal and all these other sorts of things. So just from a student's perspective, and I've told her to be absolutely honest, by the way, so I'm not crafting this at all, being absolutely honest. From a student's perspective, Sunny, what do you actually think of a confirmation of candidature?
For me, it's sort of a teaser of what you're planning to do, you know, on the rest of the 2.5 to 2 years you have to do your PhD. So this is your opportunity to sort of illustrate what you're doing, how you're going to do it, what you hope to find. And this is not a cement thing. It's sort of giving an indication of where your research is going, but modifications can come later on.
So that predictive functionality is quite useful. So basically you're telling me, saying this is what I'm going to do, this is the shape of the thesis. That's quite a positive thing for a student to do.
Yes, I mean it aligns your thoughts, because quite often at the start particularly your thoughts are muddled. Everything is sort of like morphing into one big thing, but if you're given that opportunity to say, this is my project, these are the 3-4 distinct projects that I'm going to do within the thesis, and this is what I hope to find, it at least gives you a mind map of how you're going to tackle it, rather than it being one big lump in your head swimming. A lump swimming, that's quite an image. But can I say something, that's a great sort of andragogical technique too. You've heard me say a lot to our wonderful students and to you that the best PhD has very strong boundaries around it, and you're very conscious of what you're not doing. So the confirmation of candidature is that first moment where you say, I am doing this, and you know what, I'm not doing that. So tell us how you prepared the documents that were presented to not only your supervisors but an external panel of sorts. So how did you put those documents together? It took a lot of discipline because obviously doing a PhD is quite different from doing a research proposal for anything else. So it was a lot of reading. I needed to get clear as to what I intended on looking at within my thesis. Then compile a literature review. So that's the core part of this confirmation of candidature. They want to know that you've read what's out there and you've identified a gap that your research looks to fill, which is the core element. So essentially it's reading around your topic, identifying what's been done, identifying what you propose to do and how it's new and how it would contribute to research. Essentially that is it, and then just adding how you're going to do it methodologically and the methodologies you're going to use, you know, and then you add an introduction, conclusion, but in essence that's how you prepare it.
That's really powerful, and again, I say so often, you need the literature review, and often in the humanities, like our fields, often, Sunny, that ends up spread throughout the entire thesis. So there's very rarely a literature review chapter in many of the new humanities, new theoretical social sciences in particular. But you need that literature review, because how are you going to prove an original contribution to knowledge, that it's original, which is the characteristic of a PhD, if you don't know what's already been done.
Exactly.
Really powerful. So you also have to, as part of the confirmation of candidature, after you've prepared the documents, you have to do a presentation.
Yes.
Now, that's quite complex in how you decide to deliver it, but also how it is written. So you've got a written document.
Yes.
Do you deliver that written document? What's the relationship between the document you're presenting and what you're saying?
In my instance, my document was the full version that my reviewers were going to receive prior to the presentation. And thus, in my case, my presentation was a summary of the key points that my reviewers would have read. But there are also people like your friends, your family, other staff members who might come to your presentation. So it has to be clear enough for people who don't necessarily read the whole document to understand what your research is about. So my presentation was basically a summary of the core elements that would allow everybody else in the room to sort of understand, but not reading directly from the proposal itself.
That's powerful. I sometimes use the verb riffing off. It's a musical thing, but riffing off the proposal. But I think that's a good point. Summary is an outstanding starting point. Sometimes to engage with the crowd, talking about how you got to that research, why you've chosen that particular topic. That often works incredibly well to hook an audience in.
Yes, definitely, because it goes on they give you an hour or 45 minutes, of which you speak for between 20 and 30 minutes.
Nice one.
So in those 20 to 30 minutes, you have to be able to deliver what's in that proposal. But if you decide to read it, obviously, a 20,000 page document won't take
20,000 words, hopefully.
Oh, sorry.
I was going, wow.
I'm so sorry.
She is an overachiever. The 20,000 words. I mean, can I also say the length varies enormously too.
Yes.
You did a very large confirmation of candidature. Most of them will be probably 8 to 10,000 words of script. It does vary. Might go down to 6. Some go down to 6. 10 is a good figure, and I tend to like a very, very long bibliography, as you know, Sunny, because I think it protects the students. So if you've done the reading, make the bibliography reference list very much expansive. One other hint from your other supervisor, who I happen to sleep with, Professor Steve Redhead. Steve offers very good advice to students. You've heard him do this. Comes from the law training, I think. He says, write the document and then riff off the script and write a very strong speech, but always make sure you refer back to. So on page 5 of the confirmation of candidature document, on page 7 of the document. So draw them back to the document while also riffing off it.
Yes.
Very, very powerful. Now, how did you actually prepare for the seminar itself? Because we'll be really honest here, it's quite a stressful moment because it has to be. It's really the only hard barrier that exists in the Australian system, in the English system from which you come. There is an oral exam, doesn't exist here. So this is the moment. So how did you manage the stress and the feelings on the day?
It was quite difficult because for me, I had envisioned a Hunger Games style of, when people say, you have to go defend your proposal, it sounds as if it's some aggressive thing, but on the day it was a roundtable discussion with staff members, some of my friends came, and my supervisors were there, which was great, and you essentially just talk about it. And once I realized that's what it was all about, it sort of calmed me, but preparing for it, you have to know what you're talking about. If you can make, draw examples, pull people into your research, that helps. But the preparation, you just have to know what you're talking about and be ready for a couple of questions at the end. And you also get advice. People will engage in conversation afterwards and give you, things you might have not thought about or things you might want to add. But it's a supportive environment. So don't go in there thinking you have to defend this thing. It's a supportive environment, and you're just given guidelines if professionals feel you're going off track or something you haven't considered. But don't be nervous or scared about it. It's just another presentation.
That's a great bit of advice. Can I say sometimes it does become the Hunger Games? And what we're trying to do as your Dean, but also in the Office of Graduate Research, is make sure that the chairs of all the confirmation of candidatures, if anything weird does happen, so it starts to become Game of Thrones, or it starts to become the Hunger Games, that the chair of the committee can intervene and just turn the dial a little bit on the vibe. Yeah, so that's quite important. It must be constructive. With the supervisors there, it should be kind, decent. Everybody in that room should be about you improving your work. That's the tone we're after. Now, if it gets a bit of aggressive and a bit weird, I personally, as the Dean, would be very much against that, and I think there would be some conversations to be had with colleagues in that room that, you know, this is not an adversarial situation. This is about us in an andragogical spirit improving the students' work.
Yes, and your supervisors will protect you from anything. I mean, that's why they're there. So don't go in it fearing, you know, what if, because your supervisors are your cheerleaders. I always say Tara and Steve are there to cheer me on and protect me should, you know, things go a bit hairy.
It's true. Also, one other bit of advice is ask your supervisor to run a mock confirmation of candidature. And that works incredibly well. We do it with all our students, and can I say, we're actually very hard on the students too. We run the absolute hardest confirmation of candidature that's possible. So your supervisors, if you'd like to, run it as a mock and say, you ask me the hardest questions you can think of, and we actually record them. We actually record them so the student can rehearse the answers and improve them. That's quite a good strategy.
It is, and you get familiar with what you're going to say. I had a little script, so I wasn't reading my document, but I had the core points, and some of them, you know, were a bit too long, so I was advised, you know, trim them down. That's pretty clear. You don't have to go into detail, etc., etc. So it just helps you polish for that final, you know, presentation, of which, you know, things happen. We're all human. So if you stumble on a couple of words, that happens.
Absolutely, and none of that actually matters. Experienced supervisors, experienced assessors know you are human. It's a stressful experience, and we all want a really positive intellectual vibe and outcome out of this situation. So that's great. Last couple of questions, if I can, and I don't know if there's going to be like no. So the answer to the next question could be no. And the next question is, what surprised you about the confirmation of candidature? Was there anything you were expecting that it would be like, and you were surprised?
I was just so fixated on delivering my presentation that at the end, when, you know, it was, okay, any questions? We had a bit of discussion, and I was just told, yeah, that's okay, you should go through. And I thought, oh, is that it? I thought there would be some
like swords and cannons
yes, some sort of duel to, you know, push me through. But, you know, the following day I just received a report from my examiner saying, you might want to consider doing this, but overall it's a pass, and that was it. And I just thought, oh, okay.
And that's a really good point. The thing that always surprises me is you expect sort of 35 questions. You expect this intense period of questioning, and often you get 3 or 4 or 5.
It's more a discussion afterwards, because people are, you know, engaged in what you've just said in the past half an hour, and you sort of are expecting more things to happen, and it's very, I don't want to say anticlimactic, but I had pumped myself up that it was this big thing, and then it was just over within 45 minutes, and I was, you know, free to do what I wanted for the rest of the time.
Life is about managing disappointment. Last question. So final vibe, and this is talking straight down the camera to all our Flinders guys and gals, because you have gone through this and no one else has. So what advice would you offer to them? And a lot of guys and gals will be doing this confirmation of candidature in the next 4 months. So what advice would you offer to them to make it streamlined, make it straightforward, and so they can relax and enjoy the experience?
3 things. Firstly, prepare your document.
Nice.
This is what you're being assessed on. Once you're confident with your document, submit it to your supervisors, have your family read it for grammatical, you know, things like that. They might not be specialists in your area, but they can help you with, you know, spelling mistakes. They can pick these things out. The more eyes read it, the better it is for you. So the document is the essential part. Secondly, you know, prepare your script, or if you're not keen on doing a script, at least know the core elements of your document. Have a structure, time yourself. It's very daunting to say, oh, I'm going to time myself. I really hate it. But, once you get into the groove, by the fourth time you do it, you sort of know that, okay, this is going to take me 25 minutes, this is going to take me 20 minutes. So when you're in the room, you sort of know that you'll be nervous. You might speak a bit faster and be 2 minutes out, but at least you've got that practice down.
Lovely.
Lastly, relax. Relax. It's not the end of the world. It's not final judgment.
It's not Judgment Day.
Yes.
Yes, it's not the zombie apocalypse.
Yes, it's done in a supportive environment. Your supervisors are there. You can invite your friends. You can invite your family. They're there to cheer you on and make you less nervous. Some proposals are done in a lecture theatre, so you stand at the front. You can look at them. Some are done around a table, so they're there. So relax. Everyone is there to support you, and as long as your document's good, you know what you're talking about, you're fine.
You're fine. How great is Sunny? Do you see why we thought we would do this? So the best way to understand what a confirmation of candidature is like is talk to a student who has gone through it and gone through it easily and well, and then gone on in 3 years to finish a PhD. So Sunny, as always, we adore you. It is a privilege to supervise you.
No, it's my pleasure that you supervise me.
I adore you. You know that. Steve adores you. We feel very lucky we had a chance to supervise you, and the rest of the world now has got to see some of Sunny's fabulous. So thank you, my love.
Thank you.
You're the best.